Patrick Mahomes is struggling this year. He's thrown an interception in every game against the Chargers. One of the interceptions that he threw costed him injuring his best receiver, Rashee Rice. He's now out for the season with the alleged ACL injury. And I find it funny how everybody loves to criticize Josh Allen, Joe Burrow, and Lamar when they have bad games, but nobody wants to criticize Patrick Mahomes. Look, I understand Patrick Mahomes is a Super Bowl champion, but if he's playing bad, we need to hold him to the same standard, and have the same accountability for him having bad games as we do for Josh, Lamar, and Joe Burrow. Like Mahomes is playing the worst football of his career. And with the lack of talent that the Chiefs have at wide receiver, Marquise Brown, Rashee Rice, they're out for this season. The only weapons that you have left is old man Travis Kelce and Xavier Worthy. That is not enough firepower if the Chiefs are going to be able to three-peat this year. And yes, I know that we said the same thing about this team last year, and they proved us all wrong, but the AFC is way too stacked this year for Kansas City to skate by the way they did last season. You got Houston now. With that boy CJ Stroud, they're going to have a elite offense, elite defense. You got to be able to score more than 20 points if you want to knock off Houston in the playoffs. This is not going to be an easy road to the Super Bowl that Mahomes had last season. The AFC is as tough as it's ever been. Lamar Jackson, the Ravens, they got a great chance to knock off the Chiefs again if they see them in the postseason. I doubt that Lamar Jackson is going to allow himself to lose to Patrick Mahomes again in the playoffs. Lamar is going to show up in that game. That Ravens team is going to be motivated, and they're going to find a way to beat KC if they got to play him in the postseason. Buffalo has a good chance to knock off the Chiefs. They got a great pass rush. The Chiefs' offensive line has not been that good. Somebody in the AFC is going to knock this team off because you can't continue to sustain this level of success when you're not playing at your full potential. The Kansas City Chiefs is one thing to find a way to win in the regular season, but winning in the playoffs requires you to play a different level of football that I don't think the Chiefs are going to be able to just flip that switch and do this season like they did last year's playoffs, man. This is the most vulnerable that we've seen the Chiefs so far throughout the Andy Reid, Patrick Mahomes era. Nobody in the media wants to hold Patrick Mahomes accountable, but when Brady was struggling, the only dude who had enough balls to call him out on his lackluster play was Max Kellerman. And although he was wrong about the cliff, he was acknowledging that Tom Brady was not the same quarterback at that time that we've been accustomed to seeing out of him up to that point. And the same thing can be said about Patrick Mahomes this season. He took out his best receiver after a god-awful interception, and nobody is talking about it. Hold Patrick Mahomes accountable. If you're going to ride his coattails and jack him off about how great he is, you gotta have the same energy when he's not playing good football. With how much the Chiefs' offense has been struggling this year, eventually there is going to be a team this year that can play a good enough game in the fourth quarter where they can outlast when Mahomes and the Chiefs start making their fourth quarter comebacks. Kansas City, for as good as what that defense is, when you got an offense that's inefficient and struggles to sustain drives and they don't have the level of explosiveness that they used to have early during the Mahomes, Andy Reid regime, this is a recipe for them to not make it to the Super Bowl this year. Everybody just likes to crown Kansas City as the Super Bowl champions every single year. Like this team just has this weird force field of invincibility around them that doesn't allow them to lose in the playoffs. The last time I checked, Joe Burrow sent the Kansas City Chiefs and Patrick Mahomes packing in the AFC Championship a few years ago. Tom Brady beat Patrick Mahomes twice, once in the Super Bowl and once in the playoff game. We got to stop acting like the Chiefs are just so unbeatable and they're incapable of being able to be stopped in the playoffs. This team is not that good this year. You're not always what your record says you are. You haven't really played any great teams up to this point this year outside of the Baltimore Ravens, which you got really lucky to win that game. You were literally a shoe size small from losing that game. If Isaiah Likely had some smaller feet, you would have lost that game. Kansas City is not playing their best football right now. And this early into the season, it's not about how you start, it's about how you finish. But with so much talent being out for KC, this is going to be the season that they fall short of three-peating. I'm not saying that this is the end of the Chiefs dynasty. I'm not saying that Mahomes is about to fall off. All I'm telling you is that Kansas City is not going to be hoisting that Lombardi trophy this year. They are not. Tom Brady and the Patriots didn't win the Super Bowl every year that he played. The way people talk about Brady's dominance in the NFL, you would have thought that this dude is the Bill Russell of the NFL. He got like 12, 13 Super Bowls. Tom Brady has had some seasons when he didn't make it back to the Super Bowl. Come on, we act like Brady won it all every single year. Mahomes hasn't won it all every single year. And with how vulnerable this Chiefs team looks, there is plenty teams in this conference that are capable of sending this team home. This is not a good Chiefs team that we're watching this year. You can call me a hater all you want to, but there's been a lot of games that I've watched out of the Chiefs these last couple of years when you have some questionable calls that go their way. You got some bad decision making on some coaching staffs, like the Ravens only wanting to run the football of their running backs 5 times. These teams are not going to keep allowing themselves to make the same mistakes against Kansas City. Eventually, there's going to be a quarterback with a head coach that can knock this team off. There are plenty of quarterbacks that are not too far away from how good Mahomes is as a talent. Joe Burrow, Lamar Jackson, Josh Allen, the gap between those 3 guys and Patrick Mahomes is really not that big. And all of those guys are more than able to send this dude packing in the postseason. Let's just stop trying to anoint Kansas City the Super Bowl champions every single year just because it's the Chiefs. They haven't won a Super Bowl every single year. You know, they have gotten sent home a few times. Joe Burrow did it once. And you mean to tell me that Josh Allen, Lamar, and the rest of the league is unable to get it done as well? Come on, man. Come on. This is going to be the year that the Chiefs do not win it all.